My name is Paula Jenkins, and I'm 32 years old. What I'm about to tell you sounds like a twisted family plot. But it's all real. And it happened just last year. At the family meeting, Mom demanded my inheritance when I refused. She slapped me right across the face. They threatened to ruin my career. And even the lawyers forced me to sign those papers. But then, a stranger walked in. From that moment on, they wished they had never touched me. You see, after years of being treated like an outsider in my own home, I thought the inheritance from the one person who truly cared for me would change everything. Instead, it exposed their greed in the worst way. They ambushed me with legal tricks and accusations, thinking I'd fold. They had no idea what was coming. Drop a comment with where you're watching from and what time it is. I read everyone. Now, let's dive into how it all started. Looking back, it all began with a childhood that never felt like mine. I was 8 when I came to Gloria Simmons's house in San Diego. A scared kid clutching a worn backpack after my parents died in a crash. Gloria, my mom's distant cousin, took me in. But her welcome was cold. I ate meals alone in the kitchen while she, Curtis, and Wanda laughed over roast dinners in the dining room. Family vacations to Malibu beaches were for them, only no room for me, Gloria would say, her eyes avoiding mine. Curtis got a shiny new bike for his birthday. Wanda got designer dresses. Me, a used sweater from a thrift store, handed over like it was a favor. Gloria never let me forget the foster care checks she cashed, as if I was a bill to be paid. When I was 15, Grandma Loretta Vaughn moved in. She was Gloria's mother-in-law, sharp and warm, with a laugh that filled the house. Unlike Gloria, she really saw me. She'd pull me into her room, away from Curtis's smirks and Wanda's eye rolls, and we'd play Monopoly, protect your properties. Paula, she'd say, pointing at the board with a grin. Life's like this game. People will try to take what's yours if you don't stand firm. Those games weren't just fun. They were lessons in survival. She'd slip me extra pieces of her favorite lemon cake, saying, "You're my girl, no matter what they think." Her words were a lifeline in a house where I felt invisible. Jolene Tate, my friend from school, saw it all. We'd talk late at night, her voice steady over the phone as I vented about Gloria's rules. "They treat you like a guest who overstayed," she said once. Her tone sharp with anger for me. She'd seen Curtis mock my second-hand shoes, and Wanda forget to invite me to her graduation party. Jolene's calls kept me grounded. A reminder I wasn't alone. Grandma Loretta noticed everything too. I caught her once, scribbling in a notebook after Gloria snapped at me for using too much electricity. "Just keeping track," she said, her eyes twinkling with something I didn't yet understand. Every night, I'd lie in my cramped bedroom, staring at the ceiling, wondering why I wasn't enough for Gloria. Curtis and Wanda were her pride, their photos plastered on the fridge, while mine stayed tucked in a drawer. But Grandma Loretta's voice echoed in my head, steady and sure you're worth more than their scraps. She taught me to hold my head high, to fight for what mattered. I didn't know then how her lessons and her notebook would change everything years later. Those lessons stayed with me as Grandma Loretta's health declined. It started with small things, a cough that lingered, fatigue that kept her in bed. At 30, I was working as a social worker in San Diego, helping families in crisis. But I dropped everything to be with her. Gloria complained about the extra burden, saying the house wasn't a nursing home, but I ignored her. I moved into the spare room next to Grandma's, setting up her medications, cooking soft meals she could eat. Curtis stopped by twice, asking if she had updated her accounts. Wanda called once, her voice distant, saying she was too busy with job hunts to visit. I slept in a chair by her bed most nights, holding her hand through the pain. Grandma's eyes stayed sharp, even as her body weakened. One afternoon, she pulled me close, her voice a whisper. "Paula, they're watching. Don't let them take what's yours." I thought it was the meds talking, but she pressed a business card into my palm. Randall Brooks, her lawyer for decades. "Call him when they come for you. Promise me." I nodded, tucking it away, not understanding yet. Gloria hovered outside the door sometimes, her face tight, calculating costs of the home care supplies I bought with my savings. Weeks turned into months, then 2 years of this routine. I juggled shifts at work, rushing back to check her oxygen levels, read her favorite books aloud. Gloria visited 3 times that final year, each time muttering about expenses. Phyllis, Gloria's sister and a retired lawyer, dropped in once, eyeing Grandma's jewelry box. Curtis and Wanda texted occasionally, but never offered help. I wiped Grandma's brow during fevers, changed her sheets, listened to her stories of building her food distribution company from scratch. "I did it for love, not money," she'd say, squeezing my hand. Her last months were quiet, just us in that San Diego home by the coast. One night, she smiled weakly. "You're the only one who stayed." She passed peacefully a week later, her hand in mine. The funeral was small. Gloria kept it cheap, complaining about the flowers I ordered. 6 months after, the lawyer's office called. Randall Brooks explained everything Grandma had left me, her entire estate, $2 million from her company's sales and investments. It was mine, no strings. I stared at the papers, my hands steady for the first time in years, but Gloria found out fast. Her calls started polite, then turned sharp. "We need to talk about that money. It's family business." I brushed her off, focusing on my grief. Then the ambush came, a text from Gloria. "Family meeting tomorrow at the downtown office. Be there." I knew something was off, but I went anyway. The business card in my purse. Jolene texted me that morning. "Stay strong. You've got this." As I drove to the high-rise in San Diego's bustling center, my pulse raced. They were waiting, ready to pounce. I stepped into the office, the glass doors of the downtown San Diego high-rise hissing shut behind me. The conference room was cold, sterile, with a long table dominating the space. Gloria sat at the head, her posture rigid, flanked by Curtis and Wanda like sentinels. Phyllis Simmons, Gloria's sister and a retired lawyer, leaned forward, her eyes sharp. 3 men in crisp suits sat across, their briefcases open, papers neatly stacked. No one smiled. Gloria didn't waste time. "Paula, that money isn't yours," she said, her voice clipped. "It's family property, and you're not family." I gripped my purse, feeling Jolene's text vibrate inside. "You're stronger than them." I stayed calm. "Grandma Loretta left it to me. It's mine." Gloria's face tightened, her hand slamming the table. "You manipulated an old woman. Sign it over, or we'll make sure you never work again." Curtis leaned in, his tie perfectly knotted. "Your social worker license 1 call to the state board, and it's gone." Wanda smirked, tossing her hair. "You've always been a leech." "Paula, taking what's ours." Phyllis slid a document across, her tone cold. "This transfer is standard. Sign it, and we avoid a messy lawsuit." The oldest lawyer, his glasses glinting, added, "Refuse, and we'll file for fraud. You'll lose everything: career, reputation, all of it." I shook my head, my voice steady. "I'm not signing." Gloria stood, her hand flying up before I could react. The slap stung my cheek, sharp and humiliating. The room went silent, the lawyers shifting uncomfortably. "You ungrateful burden," she hissed. "You owe us for every meal, every night under our roof." Curtis nodded, his voice low. Sign it, or we'll bury you in court. Wanda chimed in, her eyes narrow. You think you're special because she gave you scraps of attention. That money's for us. Phyllis tapped the paper, impatient. Enough. Sign now, or we'll drag this out until you're broke. The second lawyer opened his laptop, pulling up a draft complaint. We've got evidence your time alone with her, pushing her to change that will. I laughed, bitter and low. I held her hand when she was dying. Where were you? The third lawyer, younger, pushed the pen closer. This is your last chance. Fraud charges stick, and no agency will hire a social worker under investigation. My cheek still burned, but I stood taller. I didn't manipulate anyone. She chose me. Gloria's face reddened, her voice rising. You'll regret this. We'll destroy you. Another text from Jolene buzzed. Don't let them break you. I clutched my purse, the business card inside giving me strength. They thought they had me cornered. But they didn't know what was coming. Before I could respond, the conference room door swung open. Randall Brooks walked in, his silver hair catching the light, a leather briefcase in hand. Good afternoon, he said, his voice calm but commanding. I'm Randall Brooks, Loretta Vaughn's attorney for 40 years, here to discuss my client's estate. The room froze. Gloria's mouth opened, but no words came. Curtis shifted, his tie suddenly too tight. Wanda's smirk vanished. Phyllis, usually composed, gripped the table edge. Randall set his briefcase down with a deliberate thud. You're discussing Paula's inheritance, he said, eyeing the lawyer's papers. Let's clarify what Loretta wanted. He pulled out a tablet and pressed play. Grandma Loretta's face filled the screen, strong and clear, sitting in a law office. Gloria. Her voice rang out. If you're watching this, you've tried to take what's Paula's. I knew you would. My chest tightened. But not with fear, her words were a shield. She went on, her eyes piercing. I saw how you treated Paula, left her out of family trips, made her eat alone, counted every penny spent on her like a debt. I documented it all. Randall paused the video, pulling out a folder. Exhibit A: Gloria's emails to Phyllis, planning to challenge Paula's inheritance 6 months ago. Exhibit B: Curtis's texts calling Paula a burden to cut out. The oldest lawyer's face paled, his glasses slipping. We weren't informed of this, he muttered, glancing at his colleagues. Randall's smile was sharp. Loretta's trust has a penalty clause. Challenge Paula's inheritance, and you owe her $4 million in damages. Plus, Gloria's tax discrepancies at her catering business go straight to the IRS. Gloria gasped, her hands shaking. Tax discrepancies, she stammered. Randall held up a flash drive. Recordings of you discussing off-books deals. Gloria. Loretta owned your company's phone plan. She had access. Phyllis tried to interrupt, her voice shaky. This is unethical. You can't. Oh, I can. Randall cut in, his tone ice cold. This building records all meetings. You consented at the entrance. The second lawyer checked his phone, his fingers fumbling, likely searching for the policy. The third stood, snapping his briefcase shut. We need to confer, he said, his voice tight. Randall nodded. Confer all you want. But Loretta's video isn't done. He pressed play again. Grandma's voice returned. Paula loved me without asking for anything. That's why she gets everything, $2 million. My legacy. Try to take it, and you'll lose more than you imagine. The lawyers exchanged glances, their confidence crumbling. The oldest one spoke first. Mrs. Simmons. We can't continue. This could expose us to liability. They gathered their papers, avoiding my eyes, and hurried out, their footsteps echoing in the hall. Gloria stared at the tablet, her face drained of color. Curtis muttered something under his breath. Wanda's hands clenched into fists. Phyllis looked at me, her eyes wide with panic. They'd thought I was alone, defenseless. They were wrong. The silence didn't last. Gloria stood, her chair scraping the floor, her face flushed with rage. "You think you've won?" she spat, pulling out a thick folder. "I kept track of every cent we spent on you. Paula, school supplies, $50 a month for 10 years, clothes, $200 a year, food, $300 monthly for a decade. You owe us thousands." Her voice shook, but her eyes were cold, calculating. Curtis nodded, his jaw tight. "You lived in our house rent-free. Pay up." I stared at her, my voice low. "You kept receipts for raising a child," Wanda jumped in, her tone sharp. "Mom sacrificed for you, and you repay her with this Phyllis." Her lawyer instincts kicking in, leaned forward. "We can sue for those expenses. Courts favor biological families." I laughed, sharp and bitter. "I was 8 when you took me in." "Gloria, for foster care checks. Don't pretend it was charity." Randall raised a hand, his tone steady. "Your foster care stipend was $600 monthly." "Mrs. Simmons, public records show it. Paula cost you nothing." Gloria's folder slipped from her hands, papers scattering. Curtis's face reddened, his voice rising. "You're twisting this. That money was ours." Wanda's eyes darted to the door where the lawyers had fled. "This isn't over," she muttered, but her voice wavered. Randall slid a new document across the table. "This is a cease and desist agreement. Sign it, and you walk away, no penalties, no IRS audit. Refuse, and the $4 million penalty clause activates, along with Gloria's tax records going to the authorities." Phyllis's hands trembled as she read it, her lawyer facade cracking. "You can't enforce this," she said, but her confidence was gone. Randall's eyes narrowed. "Try me. Loretta's trust is ironclad, filed in California and 2 other states." Gloria's shoulders slumped, her defiance fading. "You're stealing our legacy," she whispered. I met her gaze. "It's Grandma Loretta's legacy, not yours. She chose me." Curtis shoved the pen toward me, his voice low. "Just sign something." "Paula, end this." I shook my head. "You sign, or face the consequences." Wanda's eyes welled up, her usual manipulation tactic. But I felt nothing. They'd crossed a line I couldn't forgive. One by one, they initialed the pages. Phyllis went first, her pen scratching quickly. Curtis followed, muttering under his breath. Wanda hesitated, her tears falling, but signed. Gloria held out longest, her hand hovering over the final line. "You're no daughter of mine," she said, her voice breaking. She signed, the pen shaking. Randall collected the papers with a nod. Legally binding as of now. The fallout started fast. Word spread in San Diego's tight-knit business community. Clients dropped Gloria's catering contracts, citing trust issues after whispers from the lawyer's exit. Curtis got a call from his boss that afternoon. Demoted for ethics violations tied to the ambush. They'd gambled on breaking me and lost. But their real reckoning was still to come. I walked away that day, leaving their stunned faces behind in that San Diego high-rise. The weight of their betrayal lifted as I stepped into the sunlight. I didn't look back. My first stop was a small office downtown, where I filed paperwork to start the Loretta Vaughn Community Center, using the $2 million from Grandma Loretta's estate. I leased a building in a bustling San Diego neighborhood, one filled with families struggling to make ends meet. The center would support orphans and immigrants, people like me, who'd been told they didn't belong. Renovations took months, but by spring, the doors opened. We offered free tutoring, job training, and meals for kids who went home to empty fridges. Volunteers poured in, moved by Grandma's story, A local bakery donated trays of pastries for our opening day. A retired teacher offered to lead reading classes. One afternoon, a young girl handed me a drawing of a smiling sun, saying, "This place feels like home." I pinned it to the wall, my eyes stinging. Jolene stopped by often, helping organize workshops, her laugh echoing through the halls. "You're building something real," she said, squeezing my arm. The center served over 200 people in its first month, each face a reminder of why Grandma left me everything. I blocked Gloria's number that first week, along with Curtis, Wanda, and Phyllis. No calls, no texts, no chance for their guilt trips. They'd made their choice, and I'd made mine. Word trickled back through Jolene, who heard from mutual contacts in San Diego's tight community. Gloria's catering business collapsed under an IRS audit. They found years of unreported income, hitting her with a massive fine. She sold her beachfront vacation home to cover it, moving to a cramped apartment on the city's edge. Neighbors stopped inviting her to gatherings, their whispers sharp with disapproval. Curtis didn't fare better. His company's ethics board reviewed his role in the ambush, and he was demoted to an entry-level desk job. His polished suits gathered dust as he clocked in for night shifts. Wanda's job hunt stretched on, her applications ignored after word of her family's scheme spread. Phyllis faced the California Bar Association, who barred her from giving legal advice after investigating her involvement. Their world unraveled, piece by piece, just as Grandma Loretta had warned. I didn't gloat, I felt nothing but relief. Their downfall wasn't my victory. My new life was. I kept my social worker job part-time, grounding me in the work I loved. My apartment stayed simple. A one-bedroom with a view of the Pacific, filled with books and a few of Grandma's keepsakes. I hung her old recipe book on the wall, a reminder of her lemon cake and her love, every morning. I walked through the center's doors, touching the sign with her name. It wasn't just a building, it was her legacy. One of kindness and strength, not greed. Jolene joined me one evening, sipping coffee as we watched kids play in the center's yard. "You did this despite them," she said, her voice warm. I nodded, feeling whole for the first time. I'd spent years chasing a family that didn't want me. Now I knew better. Family wasn't blood, it was love, like Grandma taught me. Cutting them off wasn't cruel, it was survival. Protecting myself wasn't selfish, it was strength. And using Grandma's gift to help others wasn't charity, it was purpose. If you've ever had to draw a line with family, you know it's not easy, but it's worth it. Your worth isn't what others give you, it's what you build for yourself. Share your story in the comments. Have you ever had to choose between their expectations and your peace? I read everyone. Grandma Loretta would be proud, and that's enough for me.